Hi, and welcome to a new video. Creating the right template for you requires some planning. The idea is that a template shall be a starting point, which includes already all the necessary steps you would do for every project anyway. Instead of having to do the same work over and over again, just do it once. Set everything like you want it to be, that you are ready to rumble when you are creative and don't have to bother with any nasty organization work. If you are producing in multiple genres which do have different requirements, just save different templates and choose the right one before starting the new project. Here are 5 tips or a little checklist everybody should go through. First, the right starting point and basic mixer routing. If you have special needs for new songs, you can perhaps find a good starting point in a factory template, which already covers some plugins or routing you always want to have in your own one. If you need a starting point though, for having always some fixed send channels, please stay away from the pre-installed ones. The empty with 4 sends and delay and reverb templates weren't updated to the increased mixer track numbers and still use the channels 100 to 103 for the sends. If you like to set up such a system, it's easier and better organized to create these send channels yourself. Control-click and drag to select, for example, the last 4 tracks. Right-click one of them and say Doc2, the right. Select all tracks in the middle and shift-click the little arrows on the send channels, or right-click a triangle and say sidechain to this track. Under no circumstances you may use just a left click without shift or the other options in the menu, as this wouldn't give you the desired result. Either creating buses instead of sends or delete the routing to previous buses, sends and the master. So either shift click the triangle or say sidechain to this track for creating sends. Name the tracks if you wish so. Another good idea might be to set up a preview track and a reference track. Please watch my Master Track 2.0 video how to set this up in detail. Second, safety first. I saw lately a video from a very famous FL Studio channel with a similar name to mine. In this video they claimed that you shouldn't have a limiter by default on your master, as a limiter wouldn't make things louder, and to avoid clipping you could use the master volume fader instead. Please don't follow this nonsense. Having a brick wall limiter on the master track while composing the track is a pure safety measure and not meant to bring the track to its maximum loudness. But if things went out of control, it's there to protect your ears and your equipment from any damage. Even for catching little peaks and prevent nasty distortion if your inputs are too hot, it does a perfect job. If for nothing else but for safety reasons, I cannot urge you enough to always have a brick wall limiter inserted on your master channel all the time. As we are already there, producing continuously over some time tires our hearing, especially on the high end, and we get cheated by our ears. Please get used to double-check what you are doing by using analyzers as a second safety measure. This time to protect ourselves from making bad decisions. It doesn't matter what plugin you are using as long as you know how to read the graph. And if you put it onto the master, or for example onto the current track. The current track always takes the selected track as input. This is a perfect place to have an analyzer loaded you like to use for measuring single channels. Instead of having to load the plugin on every track you like to see or having to solo a track for seeing its spectrum only on the master. All you need to do is to have an analyzer on the current channel and just select the ones you like to see. The current track is as well a perfect place if you like to record single channels to audio in Edison. Instead of having to load Edison on every track you might like to record, you can have just one instance on the current track. Third, audio and instrument tracks. Even if you are used to create your songs based on the standard principles of FL Studio, with a pure pattern approach and complete freedom of putting clips anywhere into the playlist, This new system has definitely its advantages. And like the latest betas have shown, most of the newer advanced features they put into the program are based on audio and instrument tracks. No matter if it's about audio recording and hopefully at some point MIDI recording directly into the playlist, selecting tracks and insert the same plugin onto their mixer tracks, or correctly placed automation and much more. If you follow always the same project layout, it can make sense to include this layout directly in the template. Audio and instrument tracks can be a big help here. If you are not sure what instruments you like to use afterwards, just take a dummy plugin which is light on resources for the moment. You can change the instrument very easy afterwards and all the naming and routing stays intact. Some producers like to have already a basic project loaded with drums and perhaps bass, some FX sounds to get directly started. Not that they use always the same sounds and samples in every project, this will be changed later on, but just not to have to start from a blank canvas and to put themselves into a certain mood right from the start. If you like to experiment making templates like this, it might be sometimes for certain instruments a good idea to use Patcher like I have shown in my Freezing 2.0 video. Number 4. Buses and mixer routing. Especially when you are using templates with fixed layouts, it might be a good idea to include buses into the templates as well and do the wished routing beforehand, that you don't have to take care for each project again and again. It might be a good idea to include these buses as audio tracks into the playlist too. This way, for example, you can use them as folder tracks, and automation you might need for plugins on your buses go into the right place as well. Nearly. If you use them as folder tracks, sadly the implementation is still not clever enough to put the clip into the correct place, which would be in this case directly underneath the kick and bass audio track. But at least it's already in the right group and easily fixed with shift and scrolling a bit with the mouse wheel. Number 5. Plugins. A template is the right place to already include all the plugins you use in every project on a regular basis. If you are using fixed send channels, you might like to insert your reverbs and delays already in the template, with the preset or setting you like to use most. If you never used the inbuilt mixer EQ, but always a separate plugin, this is the moment to put it in. Respectively, the whole processing chain for single channels if you have figured out your personal needs already. The fixed mixer slots in FL Studio are a great help here. If you are not sure if you need perhaps a plugin before, you can leave 1 or 2 slots empty before the first inserted. Duplicating the whole chain is easily done, but it might lead to having to rename the tracks when using audio and instrument tracks. It's a pity that we still do not have an option to just copy over the plugin chain only, but it's still faster as copying over 3 or 4 plugins manually. Especially the quick rename feature of FL Studio is a big help here. Watch this video how to set it up for your own needs. You can turn off the plugins in the mixer to save CPU as long as they are not in use, either individually or for the whole track. For me personally, an analyzer and limiter on the master are obligatory. And for not having to bring the mixer into view and selecting the right channel to open their GUIs, I just use the empty space in the toolbar of FL Studio for important plugins. Detach the plugin, minimize or in FL Studio language captionize it and place it in the empty area of the toolbar. Now it can happily live there and one click on this button opens the GUI without having to go into the mixer. I hope this gave you a few ideas what to consider to create your own templates. Stay tuned and thank you for watching.